The support by Michael Stipe was another high-profile praise of you. When your first album was released, obviously produced quite a bit of benefits for the band in terms of promotion, but at the same time, is it constraining in any way? Like, you get tired of being known as the Stipe band or something like that?
No, I never really put too much stock in those assumptions. I think the few things that Michael and and Peter Buck had to say about us turned a lot of folks on to us. It only helped us. I never do. I never regret that kind of praise, considering that it comes from a group that I admire quite a bit.
Did you, was it significant at all in the way that it was Peter Buck and Michael Stipe who said that about you? That you have more faith in their opinion as opposed to other artists that is
I think as musicians we have to have faith in what we do. We have to have faith in ourselves. It's certainly beneficial to receive the praise, of such folks as Michael Stipe or Bob Mould. Remember, there have been other folks who sort of put their own names on the line to back us up. But ultimately, we're all alone in this, and we have to stand behind our music. And besides, there's always another record, I don't know that Michael's even had a chance to listen to the newest record, I wouldn't expect to make a career out of it.
Did you meet Phillips, our photographer?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But it means a whole lot when those folks who I respect have nice things to say about us.
You have a song called Lone Star. I was wondering, does that refer at all to you yourself, also as a band and yourself personally, alone and separated, removed from the mainstream?
I don't believe we've ever felt connected to any kind of scene. We certainly weren't part of the scene in Los Angeles. And even now, I think our success has been due to the way that we stand out rather than the way that we fit in. But the song Lone Star, that has more to do with Texas, the Lone Star State, and really nothing to do with us.
Why is Texas the focus of that song?
Texas is a kind of place that's bigger than life. It's, in my mind, the last bastion of the American myth. And that's what I was focusing on. That's what I was trying to extract. The mythological Texas. We had been traveling through Texas, and I got to thinking about the Kennedy assassination that happened the year that I was born, and began to write with that in mind. And not a few weeks later after that, there the Waco incident occurred, and so I became influenced by that as well. So I was sort of telling two stories at one time in that song. It's not so much a narrative, it's just impressions.
The songs seem to talk a lot about America and what's happening in our times, and times in which we live. how is it that you focus on that? I mean, that's not necessarily the focus of everybody's song. Why does that have to be the focus of any story?
I think our songs are the only way that I can get a handle on this moment, by studying events that led up to this moment, studying the past and attempting to predict the future. It has to do with that more than anything else.
So for your own sake, to ground yourself, give yourself more solid footing?
Because I've never put incredible stock in the information that comes to us through the television, through the newspapers, through the media at large. I've regarded those things, that machinery, as a myth-making machine. And knowing that, or assuming that, these songs are a kind of filter where things come in, from one direction, but what emerges is a song, something quite different than the news. It comes out like all shredded up and backwards, inside out.
Your own take of it is all shredded.
Yeah. I mean, I'm under the belief that it's already been shredded and turned inside out by the time that it reaches my eyes or ears. It's as though history, whatever that is supposed to be, eventually becomes false, almost at the moment of contemplation. And mythology, with time, reveals some kind of truth. And so I turn to the latter as a songwriter. I turn to the latter for inspiration. But rather than drawing on classical myths that we're all familiar with, I tend to draw upon common personalities and characters, even celebrities, and people that I know, non-celebrities, who are usually a lot more interesting.
Just remind us.
Why would you turn the spotlight on people who are not as well known? You say that they tend to be more interesting than celebrities. Well, what's your reason for? Are you?
Celebrities have to cope with the ordeal of becoming a cartoon, and the worst thing that can happen to you as a public personality is that you begin to believe your own myth, and ultimately you become this cartoon. It's quite typical that the person in the news and the person in private are quite separate. It's almost essential for either one of those two persons to survive. Meanwhile, those folks who have been able to live their life in solitude, or at least out of the cynical microscope of the press, they're apt to reveal much more dimension. They've been able to fall more times. They've been able to gain more wounds and injuries, which is my way of talking about character.
We'll look at the story of people like that as it is, and then leave the judgment up to the listener. Or do you put a twist on it, your own interpretation and apply your own values. Recess?
I always value the interpretation of the audience. However, much it may differ from person to person. I think that's one of the greatest things about writing or making music, is that we all relate to it in our own way, based on our experiences.
Do you apply your own values?
I certainly do. There are songs like Jupiter and Teardrop, which turned up on our first record. That was sort of inspired by people that were close to me, people that I knew, and while their names weren't Jupiter and Teardrop, I was able to embellish their character and make it into a kind of drama. And sometimes you realize that the songs are more subjective than you could ever imagine. That song, for instance, is one that I later began to realize revealed much more about myself. Perhaps two sides of myself. One being quite optimistic, and the other side wanting to throw its hands up in the air. So it's certainly a subjective thing. It's a real internal thing.
It may seem like it's forcing you into an oversimplification, but he cites two different songs and what he sees as two diametrically opposite approaches. Like Mighty Joe Moon, which is a song that's full of life and in a sort of primitive way, and then Happiness, which is more of a cynical take on things. At least that's what he Which do you think, in your own case, is more representative and more reflective of you? Or are the two sides the same thing?
Those songs are probably two sides of the same coin, as you say. Mighty Joe Moon is a very idealistic song. That song's full of yearning for this secret place that exists somewhere else. A place that I like to be, where I like to be, but for the time being, I can't be there. And Happiness, on the other hand, is a way of kind of reconciling that. Sometimes I feel real horrible that when I sit down to write, a lot of it comes out a little painful. I was talking with Michael about that actually a few days ago. It's far easier for me to sit down and put my thoughts on paper and to come out being a painful kind of song. His take on it was that it's a cathartic thing. It's like the blues. So maybe at the heart of it all, that's the kind of music that appeals to me. I always feel better after singing one of those horribly painful songs. Or sometimes the most infectious pop song leaves me feeling lonely and ripped off. It's a way of getting at the truth. Happiness, though, is like a dialogue. There's another person that's being spoke to in that song. The difference in the two of us, this is the lyric, the difference in the two of us is the way that you rise over things I just put down. And that's sung to someone else who's able to hurdle the same things that I struggle with. So It's a person who wants to overcome that. It's hard for me to analyze. I wrote it in about 5 minutes.
What you're yearning for in Mighty Joe Moon? Is it something? Is it a nostalgic place that you know you can't get back to, or is it a place you're striving to get to in the future? Your utopia.
It's probably utopian. It's idealistic. It's also attainable. That song, with its imagery of rolling pastures and jumping trout, all of that's extracted from my childhood. Growing up in the country, walking down miles of railroad track after school. All of that sticks with me really, really strongly to this day. And that must have something to do with it. I really wanted to tear down a lot of the barriers that I easily put up in other songs. The barriers that the words can put up. That's why there's lines like, "Have you tasted the finest of trout?" That's my favorite line in the album.
You say that gets beyond the barriers that words usually.
Yeah. Well, just a trout is a trout is a trout, and sometimes a trout is just a trout. And in this case, it's something that I was interested in tasting and catching. I wish I could write a whole album about it. It's the realest line on the record, even though it's the most absurd. It's not conceptual. I'm really striving to avoid concepts. It's a lot easier for me to be clever than it is to share something that's meaningful to me. Things that make me laugh. Things that I feel passionate about. It's just a kind of vulnerability that I strive for as a writer, and from time to time that vulnerability gets wounded and you wind up struggling against it. But that's probably pretty universal.
Seems to be suggesting a desire on your part to return to nature.
Very exciting. Wow.
And I was wondering, are you actually sick and tired of city life?
I find that I'm pretty intrigued by urban life. Even though I grew up in the city, even though I grew up in the country, I was always anxious to head for the city. It's a lot easier to blend in a city. If you feel a little bit different and you grow up in the country, if you feel more at home in blue hair, then you probably are going to fare better in the city than the country. But the solitude of rural life will always attract me, and I don't know that it has that much to do with America Snoring. America Snoring has more to do with wrestling with apathy, and it has more to do with the climate that song was written in, which was like 1991, 92, about that period of time, and there, around the time of the Gulf War. before and after the Los Angeles riots. All of those things, all of those major events that hit home real strong. The bombing of abortion clinics, all of these things that led me to believe that there's a lot of people in America who are quite concerned about their neighbor, a lot more concerned about their neighbor than they are themselves, and that they would give away or take away those freedoms from somebody else, the right to, take control of your own destiny. That's what the song has to do with more than anything else.
The song that kind of fits into what he had in mind here was "Wish You Well," which also seems to suggest the idea of a person, a narrative suggesting that the idea of having left civilization behind, having gotten yourself away from that, back into nature.後半の方はサウンド的なもね、すごくなんていうんだろう、都会のテナーを違うな。Obviously, the sound of it seems to have absolutely nothing to do with the type of noise or bustle we would associate with a city. Sound-wise, it's completely removed from that.
I haven't heard it in a while. We've played it, a few times lately, but I haven't heard the song in a while.
That wasn't in mind when you wrote the...
I have to think for a moment.
Yeah.
I have to recall the songs.
That's not long ago.
We have a lot of them. The original recording of that song was recorded on a 16-track, and we were using these industrial-like samples on it, so it had more of an urban feel to it. But the acoustic guitar has another kind of feel. It was like the two elements of the folk and the industrial clashing together. That's pretty prevalent in our music, I think. The clashing together of those two polar opposites. Those things that are natural and those things that are completely artificial. I think you'll find both of those existed in whatever we do. Sometimes it takes the form of the music being very peaceful and very earthy. Meanwhile, the lyrics might be just completely screwed up and reflective of a person who's losing their ground, losing the plot. Wish You Well is like two different songs thrown together as well. The verses are a lot darker than the chorus. I was kind of thinking of that Beatles song, We Can Work It Out, a little bit. I mean, that developed later on. I had written the song, and then it came to me that the song might work in that same fashion. So one side of it is the person saying, prepare yourself for dark times ahead. Meanwhile, there's still a chance, as the chorus reiterates.
Drag.
Drag? Yeah.
Drag, sorry, drag. Same pronunciation, yeah. You sing Van Morrison, and then you, I guess, quote from Astral Weeks.
Right.
What is Van Morrison representing in that song?
Wow. That song is kind of like my daydreams. finding myself floating away and then being yanked back into my body, so to speak, to cope with the issues at hand. Music can be a lot of things. It can be a means of escape. It could be a means of encounter. And at some point, maybe our music acts as both. But I think that song has more to do with wanting to escape.
Why Van Morrison? Music didn't even do that.
Oh, well, I don't know.
Just how it just struck you. I assume you're a big fan of Astral Weeks.
That was a really important album to me. Astral Weeks. It's a great flood of emotions and desires, and it made a real impression on me. It's so sensual. It was just a song of choice that I might drift towards.
You talked about Astral Weeks being a flood of emotion. You note that your music is also very emotional. So it's probably the most emotional thing around right now. As with your vocals in 1995. そうだね。この時代においては生まれてすぐスマートで思われないというかね、ギャーギャー騒ぎゃいいというような流れにしているときに。There, at the same time, one reason maybe that stands out as something so emotional is because people tend to be a little more concerned with the less emotional now. Music, that's less emotional gets more people's attention right now. Are you worried about the music being left behind or not appreciated on the basis of that?
No, I don't worry about that kind of thing. We can only do what is natural to us. This is the way that we play. But I've sensed that there's a great deal of popular music that is non-emotional, and I'm not sure why that is. I can make assumptions. Maybe people are just guarding their emotions as to not get lost in as to not get taken up with this great march, of passion politically. I think a lot of folks are probably on the fence. They don't. A lot of us are at a point in time when we don't know what we believe in. We don't know what we can put our faith in, and knowing that, or being in that position of loss, you're less apt to vocalize your questions.
So people that's more, I'm sorry.
Go ahead. As musicians and as a singer-songwriter, that's all I have is questions. What were you going to say?
I say so. Maybe people are less inclined now to commit themselves.
Yeah, I think so.
Less commitment. But you don't have any reservations about it.
I don't really see what I do as a commitment, I guess. Maybe that's my way of sidestepping the issue. I see what I do as raising questions, occasionally stirring up the dust, maybe pushing a few buttons, but mainly just sort of just unloading this mess onto a piece of tape. That's about it. Nobody wants to be persecuted. But I think a lot of us fear that in these times. There's a lot of radicals out there. I just have to add that. Okay.
As of late, note specifically, ever since like the so-called grunge music craze came about, there's the one emotion, one and only emotion that seems to mean anything now is anger. Anger on the part of the musician, or anger on the part of the listener. The title.
そういう状況に対してね、彼らの音楽でもいろんな感じがあると思うんだけど、それに違和感を感じてない。
As a maker of music that covers a larger spectrum of emotions, is that something that you have trouble identifying with? Or that just one emphasis on a single emotion, i.e. anger?
I identify with the anger of other bands, that are somewhat younger than ourselves. I mean, I'm 31 now. I identify with it. I think we're trying to cover a larger scope. Because honestly, I'm not consumed with anger. If I was, then, and I think there are people who are, then it might come out differently. I don't think it's such a bad thing. I'm not down that at all. I think if you can get it out and put it into a song and a lot of other people relate to it, then that's doing some good. Maybe it's a way of exercising that anger. I'm different about it, but doesn't that answer the question?
Well, he just was wondering. I think the focus of the question was whether you felt at odds with the times at all. I mean, first of all, obviously the question is predicated on the assumption that there is this sort of streak of anger in music now, and maybe that being the tenor of the times, and your band having more emphasis on a broader spectrum of emotions, that maybe you felt at odds with what is happening in the mainstream.
I don't feel at odds with the mainstream. I don't even know if I know what the mainstream is. The minute that I think I got it pinned down, it's something else. It's changed. And when I'm at home in Los Angeles, which is quite infrequently, I don't have a radio in my car. I don't. I'm not really tuned into it very much. I don't read the press that's written about us. So, and I haven't felt like I missed out on too much, really. I think it's because of our lifestyles being that we travel so much. It was another time when I got home from work and I sat in front of the television, and listened to the radio going to and from work. I don't know what the mainstream is anymore.
The song Sing Along, we talk about not being able to sing along with something. Maybe that overlaps with what we're talking about here, not being able to sing along with whatever mainstream happens to be. Is there something you can sing along with right now and something you cannot sing along with? How do you differentiate the two?
Not being able to sing along is more of a metaphor. I wasn't thinking of a particular song, but I probably could think of a particular song.
But obviously it means something you can or cannot resonate with. Or
that's what I'm saying. Yeah, I'm saying. this place that we're at right now, this state of confusion, I do feel responsible for it. I don't know what to do, and sometimes you find that the more you look into it, the more you try to educate yourself on it, the more you feel the ground becoming quicksand. Nevertheless, I choose to be optimistic, and I choose to make meaning out of this life. But like I said, I can't sing along with it. I can't get into it. I can't find meaning in materialism. I can't understand why corporations and businesses and governments mean more than individuals. But you know, like all of us, this is all that I know. How do I cope with it? It's an ongoing song. Never ends. I don't like going along with it though. That's what I'm trying to say in that song.
Things that obviously you can't identify with, as you just mentioned, like materialism. What sort of principles or beliefs do resonate with you? Then do you identify with? You talk about what you reject. What do you embrace?
What do I embrace? Well, my values and the things that ring true to me. I don't know that they're written down anywhere, but some of the oldest thoughts that have been written down resonate with me. Some of the few things that are left over from a time when people were more in tune with the tides of nature. Those things ring true to me. It's pretty hard to remain pagan in this environment, however. But being in tune with nature and making that understanding the grand quest, I'm all into that, and that's an idea that's older than any of us. There's no particular religion though that I can attach myself to. I've read on quite a few of them, and often the best things about religions are universal. Compassion and acceptance, honesty, trust, all of those things, all of those words that the Hallmark Company had, co-opted mean a whole lot to me.
Last question there.
This question's really important to photos of you. You take your music all over the world. If you could describe in one word or one concept what your music brings to people, what it presents them with, what would that be? What does your music bring to the table?
Vulnerability is essential.
Vulnerability?
Well, yeah, vulnerability
of people?
Yeah.
Is the vulnerability of man versus the greatness of nature.
Yeah, my feeling is that you will never taste the ecstasy of nature, of life, if you can't be vulnerable.
Mm-hmm. So maybe
if you can't let go, and music and the ritual of music, the idea that you can merge with something that's bigger than yourself, with other people in a musical setting, that requires being vulnerable. And through that, we can reach something that's quite transcendent, something that we can't attain over coffee. The words that I choose to convey this are pretty flimsy. It's something that can't be discussed too much, can't be talked about too much. But I would hope that everybody has that chance in their life to sense that, to feel that thing that music can do. No, I like abstract questions.
Anyway, we're supposed to get some photos now then?
Okay. Have I met you before? Not in France, right?
No, I guarantee not France.
Really? Where are you from?
San Francisco. But I mean, I've been here forever, I think about 15 years.
Oh, really? Wow, you seem really familiar.
Really? Huh.
That's strange.
Yeah.
San Francisco. I'm from Stockton originally.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh. So a lot of people are coming out of Stockton.
Yeah.
A band called Pavement.
They're great.
Yeah. There's also, who's the other one? Guided by Voices.
They are?
Yeah.
Really?
Wait,
I thought Chris Isaac and Pavement and Gary Young, but those are the only ones.
that's very good. I was just reading about this yesterday, the day before yesterday. It was Guided by Voices.
Huh. I'll check that out. I know that. I haven't lived in Stockton for about 12 years myself.
Oh, really? Yeah.
But we used to play in San Francisco a lot. In this other band called Shiva Burlesque. Down at like the Blue Hay, played there. Night Break on Hate, IBM and all those places.
Is it right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't lived there quite a while. I left about 1980. Good percent.
God, I wonder. I'd almost think that maybe we have some mutual friends or something. You seem really familiar. I swear. Yeah. Tape's still rolling here.
Okay. Yeah. Anyway, we gotta get some photos of you.